Hello, I'm Phil Zio from One Wall Studio, and I'm here to explain how impulse responses work. Now, impulse responses being the kind of things that you can use to either simulate a reverb or a guitar cabinet or something else to that effect. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the bass that I have recorded straight from the head. Now, one way you can use an impulse response is after a recorded signal from a head or a DI. So if you listen to this, it's just the bass played through a head already, so it's not a clean DI. Which means I'm looking for something like Rosen Digital's Pulse. Now, Pulse actually has a built-in impulse response called Pulse, but what I want is an external IR. So for this, I'm going to go to my bass cabs folder, where I have saved a whole bunch of different bass cabs impulses from different companies and such. And I'm going to choose this one. Now with an impulse, what's cool is you can choose a different sound after the fact. So I'm going to choose the first impulse or second impulse, third impulse. They all sound pretty similar because they're of the same cab, but check out what happens if I choose a different one entirely. Completely different sound. Alright, so now that we have a bass tone in place with the cab, I'm going to check out the lead guitar. Now, the lead guitar is special because it's a clean DI being run into an amp sim that has an emulation of a head. Now, this cab sim is called Bulldozer, and it's by Audio Assault. For those of you who know how amp sims work, you'll see that changing the knobs allows me to adjust it like turning a knob on the head would. But this one has a special cab section where you can choose the cabinet and choose from a British, American, Japanese, or German cabinet, and then choose the mic. Now this works like an impulse response and then a series of filters that emulate moving the mic. You can hear how it changes. And the sound is different depending on where you move it and which mic you choose. You can also adjust a high-pass filter on a lot of them, and a low-pass. So that's one way of using an impulse response. Now, you'll see here I have two stereo panned leads. Both also with a cab. For the one on the right, I chose the modern 412 IR cabinet, and for the one on the left, I chose the modern 412 cabinet. Now, this works by choosing the IR cabinet option, which basically makes this an IR loader, still with the same high-pass and low-pass frequencies. But it then lets you choose a custom one. So this is where they're stored for this particular IR loading program. And you can see they're all WAV files like a typical IR will be. But you can choose them, cycle through them, and moving the mic is impossible because you're not using a microphone. You're using a static IR. So with that out of the way, I'm going to get to the fun part, which is the rhythm guitar. So for this one, I have everything running through Grind Machine 2 as a preamp with the cab section disabled. Now, if I were to turn the cab section on, it would enable the IR loader here. This is where the IRs are stored for this program in its own folder in the public documents directory under Audio Assault. And it lets you choose one IR at a time, which is good, and uses an impact knob. So Some applications and some plugins have the ability to adjust the IR with some kind of filter in post. And that's what this impact knob is doing. It's doing a series of calculations to change the IR or filter it in some way to emulate a more realistic sounding speaker movement. A lot of IR loaders have these, but more basic ones don't. You can cycle the IR choice. And if you were to turn the cap section off, you would hear just the sound of the head. One thing that you can do is enable another cabinet section from a different program afterwards in serial. So right now I'm blending two IRs, which would be the Mag 15 position 3 and the Mag 32 position 2. Now this one's a special IR loader. It comes with TSE X50, and you can adjust the volume of each individual channel. So this is more Mag 32. You can actually see the spectral analysis of the IR. You can filter it out. Now this has something similar to the impact knob, but it's a little bit different. So this has a movement knob, which supposedly emulates the sound of a microphone and a cab moving in tandem, from what I've heard. It's subtle, but it works. The important thing to know when you're doing a multiple IR setup, though, is how things are routed, what the processing mode is, and how the phases work together. So right now, they're both coming at you as if on either side. It's called dual stereo. They're both the same width, so you're getting a full stereo image from this one and a full stereo image from this one. So this single channel of guitar has both this IR and this IR enabled. If I was to do it the other way, for this program, it would be called stereo. It would have this one on the left and this one on the right, according to the width knob. So now you've got position 3, Mag 15 on the left, position 2, Mag 32 on the right. You can change that, though, by adjusting the width knob, sending it straight up center, and so forth. So I like dual stereo because it allows me to have both of them blending in a way that I can then check the phase perfectly. So now you're hearing only what's canceled out by both of them. So the two of them working together cancel out certain frequencies. In this combination of Mag 32 1 and Mag 15 3, you're getting the cancellation of that fizzy area and that little bit of crunch. The amalgamation of it is a lot warmer and crispier in the high end, but not in the mid highs. And you can hear a lot of that warble disappear when you choose these two in tandem, and it's reflected by the sound of it here. A much more mid-heavy kind of thing going on. So you can choose a whole bunch of different options when it comes to mixing and matching IRs, and that's the glory of choosing some from the same pack, like mine, is that you get to actually experiment with them and see which ones you like best when blended and which you like best when canceled out and all that good stuff. And you can create some really cool effects. Now, what you could also do is use a very bare minimum one, like this, which has a couple more routing options. You can choose the quality, set it to high, normal, low, extreme, and you can choose mono, which sums both of these down, and you can choose a balance between the two, and it all comes out mono. So it'll only read from the left in most circumstances. But the balance of these two different IRs can be found for a single mono channel. And that's great for saving processing power when you don't have two different things routed to a single stereo bus. Next, I would say my favorite of all time is to use dual mono, where it's basically a stereo image blended between the two of these at varying ratios. So right now you're getting all mag 15 position 2. Right now you're getting all mag 69 position 2. And now you're blending between the two. But it still stays as a single stereo image. And again, you can perfectly hear what's out of phase. Now, one final way you can do this, and this is kind of like expert mode, is using something like pull-in LeCab 6IR mixer, where you manually have to choose whether the input is left, the input is right, on each individual channel, but you get 6 different channels to choose from, all with their own delay compensation areas, individual volumes, high pass and low pass for each, individual panning, so you can send the right signal to the left of the image if you want, and throw it radically off. You can do a lot of things with this plugin, and it's really cool, but I only really use it when I want like a big wall of cab sounds. The left is completely comprised of a whole bunch of position 3s for mag end, mag 15, and then mag vat is position 2, but I also have a mag vat position 2 on the right side as the last channel so that they can have a little bit of consistency between the two of them. So even though they're completely different sounds on either side, there's a little bit of consistency for the bass. Now what's cool is I can then phase out this side and you can hear just what it is without these. So this is the whole image now with an inverted phase of the mag 69 position 1, so you're just hearing what's canceled out between all of these. You can do the same on the other side. So ultimately, you can get a huge selection of sounds with just simple free tools and a couple of IRs. Now, you can find an IR by going on the internet, finding any number of free IR sites. You could buy some from like Rosen Digital, or you could buy my pack from Audio Assault, which is the one I've been mostly demonstrating with. And a lot of plugins come with IRs built in, such as the ones from Audio Assault, like these, or the ones from Audio Assault, like these. I'm not a shill, I promise. But yeah, you can get a whole bunch of really good sounding stuff for very little money. You don't have to buy a microphone, you don't have to buy a cab. You can just choose to do whatever you want, whatever you already have, and still get really good tones. So while this song is nowhere near mixed and it sounds a little bit rough right now, I hope that helped to illustrate how you can use some IRs in the context of a mix on a variety of settings. Now, just for funsies, let's hear how it sounds on a drum kit. I'm going to go for Rosen Digital's Pulse in the dual mono setting. Choose one bass IR and choose one of my personal IRs. And then, just for fun, I'm going to automate it. Automating it using a modulation parameter is going to allow me to create a whole series of things that's going to be really fun to listen to. So check it out. It's definitely filtering it in a fun way that's very unique to how an IR works. So that's a fun little tidbit of a trick that you can use just to end out the video with something fun. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions or any concerns, any comments, anything you want to see in a future video, just let me know and I'm happy to explain. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later.